Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It's fantastic that you're here. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video on Aussie band Boom Crash Opera. And through this song Onion Skin, we looked at the fact that the layers of the onion are actually the goodness of the onion, and actually looking within to our own layers is one of the best things we can do, because that then radiates to the outside. So I trust you enjoyed that one. Well, we go from there to a bunch of guys that were formed in Dublin in 1975. Simon Dorr, Gary Cott, Pete Briquette, Johnny Fingers, Gary Roberts, and Bob Geldof. And of course, when I mention those names, we're talking about the Boomtown Rats today. Between 1975 and 1986, they actually released 6 albums, and then a bit of a break, but then they came back in 2013 and released one more. So 7 albums in all, and they have had 21 singles, and so and a clip of theirs in a little while, Looking After Number One, which is actually their first single. You see how energetic and just compelling an act the Boomtown Rats actually are. When they are really flying, they're really flying and producing some good, tight music indeed. But of course, we can't talk about the Boomtown Rats without talking about one song in particular. And this song came off the 1979 album, The Fine Art of Servicing. This was a #1 hit in the UK, and we're talking about I Don't Like Mondays. The lyrics are very mysterious in this one. It starts off with the silicon chip inside her head is switched to overload. Now, this is a much loved song around the world. I think it's one of these timeless songs that when Bob Geldof wrote it, he actually really resonated with the world. And because it is a much loved song, perhaps what this song is about perhaps is kind of lost in amongst that. Now, I won't actually tell you what the song is about, not specifically anyway, but just to say that it was about horrendously tragic circumstances. Now, I have put a Wikipedia link below about this song, and so you can read up for yourself about what this song was about. But I suppose just a bit of a warning there, that is, if you love this song, you may not want to know what it's about. You may just want to just get into the lyrics and discover for yourself what it is, because one of the amazing things about these particular lyrics is you can interpret them in a few ways, and it can be interpreted in a way that is resonating with yourself. So I'm not going to let you know specifically what it's about. If you do want to find out, the link is there, but you have been warned that what you read there won't be the best. So I'll leave that one with you. But I can say that this song is about horrendously traumatic circumstances. And no, trauma is a strange thing, isn't it? It kind of overwhelms us and takes us over. Our brains feel like they check out for a while. They don't think, because we're just overwhelmed by this thing that has taken us over. Our brains can't process it. Our brains can't think straight, and we're thinking, "Wow, what's going on here?" You know, even if we hear of a tragic circumstance, we think, "What? Why? What? How does that even happen? How's that even happen? What's going on there?" It's an interesting one, isn't it, the way our brains work. In fact, got a little bit of a model today. I remember talking about trauma. I was going to the Adelaide Royal Show. I'm from Adelaide, and my daughter somehow got me to go on one of these rides. You know, I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to rides. I don't mind a little bit, but if it gets a bit too much, I'm thinking, nah, I'm not going to do that. You look at it and think, Well, anyway, for some reason, my daughter got me on this ride, and I didn't really look at it beforehand for some reason. Anyway, I got on there and I realised that this thing was going upside down. It was going all sorts of which way and everywhere, and I was starting to get a bit freaked out. I was starting to get, oh my goodness, what's going on here? I'm going to die. Well, I wasn't going to die, but that's what it felt like. But about halfway through the ride, I realised that this ride is designed to keep us safe, and this ride is designed to keep us in. And when I realised that, now don't ask me how that actually happened, it just did. When I realised that, I relaxed a bit and even started to enjoy the ride a little bit. I did sort of look at my daughter at the end thinking, what on earth did you just do to me, in a bit of a jokingly way, and she just sort of smiled back at me. But yeah, I when I realised that this thing is designed to keep me in, I kind of relaxed a bit. This concept of the way the brains deal with trauma has been part of extensive research, and it was Dr. Dan Seigel a little while back who talked about a hand model version of the brain. And I might just try and explain this to you now, because when you see this, it makes really, really logical sense. Such a good model. So just imagine, here's a brain. Now, my wrist and my arm is the spinal cord. That's the brain stem that goes up into the brain. And this bit here with the thumb, that's the emotional part of the brain. That's the bit of the brain that goes, panic, panic, panic. Oh, that's really nice. Or happy, happy, happy. That's that bit of the brain. And at the top, this bit up here, that's the thinking part of the brain. Now, what actually happens is when this is going like this, I'm acting, I'm frustrated, I'm sad, I'm angry, whatever it is, this bit here checks out. It stops working. And so, yeah, it just stops working, and this thing takes over for a while. Both this bit and this bit, they cannot operate at the same time. This is the way our brains are designed, and this is certainly what Dr. Dan Seigel was talking about. So if we think about the practical example of the ride at the show, when I went on to start with, I was going like this. Panic, 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 stress, 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 I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. The thinking brain stopped at that point. But then the thinking brain said, hang on a minute, Mr. Emotion, just stop yourself for a second, because I'm actually feeling safe here, and I know this thing's designed to keep me in. So that thing said that, and it just closed over and created this beautiful holistic experience. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, why do I even need this thing here? That seems to be disruptive and seems to be a little bit, pointless. Well, you know what? This is where the fight, flight, and freeze part of our brains are. Now, if you think about an animal, not that we're animals, but animals will do one of three things. They will flight, they will run away, they will stay and fight, or they will freeze. In other words, trying to make themselves invisible by freezing. Same happens with us. Like if we walk onto a road and we see a car coming and we need to get off the road, does this thinking part of the brain say, oh, do you think I should get off the road? Do you think I don't don't know. Do you think I should? Well, no. This thing that just says, get off. And we get off the road. And that is why we have the fight, flight, or freeze reflex, because it is the thing that keeps us safe. Thinking often takes a bit too long to make those split-second decisions. But you know, if we're driving in a car and we see that we need to evade something, this thing will say evade, 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 evade. And then this thing will say, oh, how did we do that? Yeah, well, let's just process that for next time. That's why this thing is important and this thing is needed. It's not a deficient part of our brains by any means. It's actually the thing that keeps us safe the most. Let's put this down for a check. But if you think about the fact that for some people where this emotional bit here has been going for a long, long time and it's not turning off at all. It could be there's just trauma in the house every single day. There's just no safety, there's no security. This thing doesn't stop. It's designed, this thing's actually designed to get us out of a fix for a little bit of a while and then to stop for this to take back over. But for some people, this doesn't stop. And so in a sense, our ability to think is compromised. And now when we think about tragic, horrendous circumstances, and yeah, I know certainly for me, early this year when we had the bushfires in Adelaide, I wasn't at risk at all of the fires, and the fires tend to always be in the same place in Adelaide, and that's out the northeastern Adelaide Hills and around that part of the world. It seems to never come into the city itself. So I wasn't feeling stressed at all. I was stressed by the fact that there were fires and they were horrible. But when, as I've shared a little while back, I was a chaplain in the recovery centres, both up in the Adelaide Hills and Kangaroo Island, and what I saw was people who were traumatised like this. You know, that was just going like this. In fact, there was one guy, a farmer, and he was surrounded by fire, and he had to decide which way was going to burn him the less. And so he ran. He ran. This beautiful, thoughtful guy, farming for years. He ran for his life. And of course, when he got to the recovery centre like this, and that was still going, the best things that we can say to people in that situation, you're safe now. You're safe now. You're safe now. The fire's not here. And then all of the stuff that comes out afterwards, all of the implications of what the fire means and all the rest of all that comes later, but you're safe now. And it's and for some people, you know, we talk about post-traumatic stress. This thing here doesn't go. In fact, this thing here starts to think about the images that it saw more than anything else and won't let them go, because this thing is just overwhelming the thinking brain. And that's where post-traumatic stress comes in. That's the thing that keeps those images so fresh and so real. And so it's about settling this down. But it's not easy. It's just, I'm not saying it's easy. It is not easy to do that, particularly when post-traumatic stress settles in. And so, what's a couple of things that stop this? I think first of all, safety. The fact that you're safe stops that. The other thing that certainly in these communities was the fact that they were communities and there was comfort and the community wrapped itself around the trauma, and it helped each other out. Everybody who knew who everybody was. I know when we were going out to property, someone would say, oh look, have you caught up with such and such yet? Oh no, oh, where do they live? And they'd let us know where they lived. Yeah, I've been a bit worried about them and wondering how they're going, so they might need a visit from you. You know, and that could be in a situation where they're standing in the middle of a paddock, in the middle of a park place, and their house is flattened. And they still have the space to be able to say, have you checked on such and such? There's something quite beautiful about the community spirit. It keeps people going. It keeps people connected with each other. Certainly on Kangaroo Island, interestingly, when you go on Kangaroo Island, if you're a resident of the island and you go to the mainland, you're going off island, and when you're going back there, you're on island. Now, of course, as someone who's not a resident of Kangaroo Island, I don't go on and off island. I'm actually coming from the mainland. So it's funny how communities think. But what I found in Kangaroo Island in particular is how selfless people were, and how connected they were with each other, and how community leaders just sprang up everywhere and anywhere, because it's just what was needed. When you know the people who come into your places and your places of business, you just know. When they're not coming, you wonder what's happening, and then you just put out your feelers to work out what's going on. So community spirit is a beautiful, stunning thing. And when I was certainly up, back in January this year, 2020, before coronavirus even hit, we saw a really coming together of these communities in a fast and fantastic way. And I'm sure that was the difference between some people going to post-traumatic stress and not. I mean, the government, we were up there and we were able to provide relief grants and a few other bits and pieces, but it was the community coming together that really got that community happening. Don't get me wrong, the fires got really incredibly close to a couple of towns. Some towns didn't make it through, but some other towns, the fires got so close it was scary. And if I was living in one of those places and I saw fire all around me, I would be petrified and scared. I don't have those images in my head for a long time, I'm thinking. There's a bit of a cycle with recovery after disasters. The community spirit can be strong at the start. Everyone's looking out for everybody and everything else. And then after a while, as things start to settle in a little bit, things become a little bit more disconnected and a bit more disjointed. Why hasn't the government done more? Why is that person doing that? Why are we being as nitpicky as sick? This is because human nature starts to take over a little bit. The thinking part of the brain, I suppose, starts to take over, and there's a bit of disjointness for a while until it comes back to something stronger. And because as communities, they're dealing with what has been a horrendous situation, and people start realising what's happened at various times. So, research has shown that, we have good at the start, perhaps, then it drops off a bit, but then it comes back. This is the amazing thing about disaster communities. At the moment, there's been a big, massive super hurricane in the Philippines, 225 kilometre winds. That's some of the most horrendously ferocious storms ever, just very recently. And of course, winds like that are going to devastate communities. And so United Nations are there giving out supplies and all the rest of it at the moment, but it's the communities banding together that's going to actually beat that situation. Because when you do life together with someone, it becomes richer and even more connected than it was previously. So I trust you find that all very, very interesting. I do like this model. I like the fact that the emotional brain and the thinking brain, they can't operate together. I mean, you think about the fact, if this is going crazy, for instance, like you're in an exam and you're having to think, you don't want that working at all. You just want that working. And so that checks out and that takes over. There might be some situations where you want that to go like that. You know, you're in absolute ecstasy. You might be with your loved one and you're in an intimate moment. You want your brain just to check out of that. You don't need your thinking brain at that point because it's trusting and it's beautiful. You know, when you see a newborn baby for the first time, you want that. You want that resonating. You don't need the thinking brain. That comes later. So you know what? It is all kind of connected, and there is a place for both things. There really, really is. And I think it's quite amazing to think that the design of our brains is such that we can act quickly when we need to, but we can also think when we need to. Maybe at times, if we are in trauma, we might need to activate our thinking brain. And they say that counting, particularly backwards, we say 20, 20, 19, 18, you know, that's that kind of speed that gets that thing checking in, because the emotional brain can't count, but the thinking brain can. So if you find yourself, you might be in an exam even, you think, oh man, I don't know this. What was the answer to this question again? What was the answer to this question? I can't remember. Oh, that's right. 20, 19, 18, 17. You get that thinking brain operating. But then, you know, but we don't always remember to do that, right? Because this is kind of taken over and we just sometimes forget to count back from 20. But I almost think when you start to see that happen, count straight away. And this gets thinking about how to deal with that. So, and this is certainly what Bob Geldof was doing when he wrote I Don't Like Mondays. He was looking at this horrendous situation and he was trying to get his head around what had actually happened. Now, this particular event happened in the United States, so nowhere near Ireland, but it had such a profound impact on him that he had to write about it. And this song became a massive hit for the Boomtown Rats, and a song that still resonates with us even today. So I trust that's all been an encouragement for you today. Just whatever you think about the brain, think about the hand model of the thinking brain and the emotional brain, and closing over like that to remind yourself this is what the brain is designed to do. So on to the clips today, and yes, we have to have I Don't Like Mondays. We've got two versions of this particular song. We've got the official clip, and as I said before, this came off the Fine Art of Servicing album in 1979. And so we've got the official clip of that one, and then one of the things that Bob Geldof is also famous for, and I probably will give a little bit of space to this in my next video, is he got the world together for Live Aid in 1985. And so I've also got the version of them singing I Don't Like Mondays at the Live Aid concert in the UK. So there's two versions of that one. But because I Don't Like Mondays is very much a piano-based piece, I thought we'd better get something a little bit more everybody included. So I've gone for the first single of the 1977 self-titled album, Looking After Number One. And this is a live version of that particular song. And as I mentioned earlier, you just see the energy of Bob Geldof up the front. You see how tight these guys are as a band. You know, you don't get top 40 singles without being good, and these guys are exceptionally good. And so you see the Boomtown Rats in their full-on rock glory as they sing Looking After Number One. And I thought also I would, and by the way, the links to those particular songs are in the description below. So feel free to have a look at all of those or one of them or whatever you'd like to do. And I thought also I'd just include a video of Dr. Dan Seigel talking about the hand model of the brain. Just so you know that I'm not making it up. It is actually based on a doctor coming up with this model a little while back. So I've included just a very short summary of it there for you to have a look at as well. And I've also included my video from last time from Boom Crash Opera and Onion Skin. So if you want to recap on that one, feel free to look at that one as well. Well, that's it for today. If you have come back for another video, awesome. You're very, very welcome, and thank you for coming back. If you've got to the end of this video today, thank you also. My main aim at all these videos, and sometimes we touch on some interesting things, is for it to be an encouragement for you. That's the only reason I do these videos, is to be an encouragement in all of our life's journeys, which take all sorts of twists and turns, and sometimes into spots we never thought we would go. So I trust this has been an encouragement for you today. And I suppose if you have been in trauma, or you are going through trauma right now, and you are finding it difficult to shake it, you may need to go and talk to someone, probably sooner rather than later. Because if it goes on for too long, it can start to become damage. So I really urge you to go and get help if you need to. Normally, if we decide to get help, you've got to do it within 48 hours because that's kind of the time limit we give ourselves sometimes for us to take action, or we may forget about and not do it at all. So make an appointment in the next 48 hours to see someone if you really, really need to. Well, that's it for today. Next time, as I mentioned, we're going to go on to one of Bob Geldof's legacies, and this is Sir Bob Geldof, because he got knighted for this, and that is his efforts with Live Aid from 1985, not just in the UK, but also in the US. So until then, I'll catch you around.